Anastasia, thank you so much for joining us here today at the Bentonville Film Festival.
Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about the piece Ben and Suzanne, a reunion in 4 parts. I, of course, have had the honor of getting to see the film ahead of this conversation, but for the viewing audience who haven't had the opportunity yet, what would you like them to know about the piece?
Well, Ben and Suzanne is the story of my character Suzanne works at an NGO in Sri Lanka, and my long-term boyfriend Ben comes to visit me from the States, and they reunite for a road trip that does not go as planned. And we get to visit many different parts of the beautiful country of Sri Lanka as their relationship is both rekindling and falling apart at the same time in different ways. And it's really a meditation on the people that come into your life and are really meaningful for a moment in time.
And in the film, I'm going to give just a little bit of stuff away, but it's not going to impact knowing the story. You actually are speaking one of the local dialects. Is this something you knew or had to learn with working on the project?
I knew not a word of Sinhala before we started this project. We had a wonderful film crew, and Sean, our director's family, his father and a lot of his family members live in Sri Lanka. We're all from the States, but they were all so incredibly helpful in teaching me the language, teaching me the words that we would need for each scene. So I basically memorized the little bits of dialogue, and then I learned a few words just to kind of get around. Stuti means thank you. I think I said that at least 48 times a day while we were on set. So I picked up a couple words here and there. And our DP, Molly Scotti, learned some more technical camera terms so that she was able to communicate a little bit better with our crew, a lot of whom spoke English, but just to kind of bridge that gap.
And in my research, I found that, of course, you and your other half have acted before, have history with film industry, and I don't want to, you're the professional because you've done this before, but the rest of the cast hadn't been in films before, new to the world of acting?
That's true. Yes, Satya Sridharan, who's my co-star who plays Ben, he and I are both trained actors. We've done a lot of work both on stage and in film. And everyone else in the film is local to Sri Lanka. And many of them, I don't think any of them had been on camera before, really. So that was actually really fun. Muhammad, who plays our driver, his name is Muhammad, and he was our driver for the project. And he was fantastic. He was just such a natural in front of the camera. Priyanthi is Sean's cousin, Priyanthi, and she was also so great. She's exactly like that in real life. He just cast people who he knew that their energy would be right for these parts, and then they were fantastic. They were really fun to work with.
And of course, I'm thinking if I ever visit Sri Lanka, I need Muhammad to be my driver because he was delightful.
He's the best. He's really the best.
As far as the crew, did you bring in crew? Did you use local, a mixture?
The only 4 people who came over from the States were Sean Sevenaratne, our director, Satya Sridharan, my co-star, Molly Scotti, our DP, and everyone else was local crew to Sri Lanka. So we had a really fantastic production team down there that brought together some really excellent people to work on our film.
And throughout the film, we're getting a little mini tour or micro tour of Sri Lanka with this. How were the locations decided upon? Was it access for filming? Was it we want to make sure because everyone needs to see this?
I think a little bit of both. We were both trying to follow the story of them traveling around in this way. And also, the airport was a very specific location that was really important to Sean. And so that was, I think, the biggest hurdle for us was making sure we could get permits to shoot at the airport. And then a lot of the other locations were based either on things that Sean particularly wanted, houses that looked very beautiful or that looked not beautiful in specific ways. Suzanne's house was a really specific spot that we wanted to make sure captured how isolated and lonely she is out there. And then a lot of it was just our location scouts going out before and finding people's houses that they invited us into.
And the people in Sri Lanka, were they very welcoming and accepting?
They were awesome.
Okay, I was going to say, this is a lot of chaos for people that may not be used to that.
Yeah, I think Sri Lankans are pretty used to chaos. But our crew is really fantastic. They were so smart and talented and supportive. when you do any film, there's always a little bit of a, how's the vibe going to be on set with this new group of people who's never been together in this particular configuration before. And so we were a little bit like, we don't know what we're getting into, and we don't know what it's going to be like in Sri Lanka either. And we were just very, very pleasantly surprised and supported in a really nice way.
Is there anything you wish you had known prior to going into this project that would have assisted or made the process more enjoyable?
I wish we would have known a little more about the strike, because the actors, we went on strike 2 days into our filming, which was, on one hand, so supportive of the strike itself. Satya and I are both proud union members, and we're, incredibly passionate about all of the things that our union was striking for, and pretty much none of them applied to the film that we were working on at the time. So it was really tough to be both away from our friends who were protesting and starting this movement back at home, and feeling kind of outside of this thing that meant a lot to us, and then also being not able to do this other thing that also really, really, really meant a lot to us, because we'd been part of this project for 10 years, and to finally get to be able to shoot it and then to be put on hold for a second, that was really tough. So that was something that really none of us could have known, and I think we prepared as well as we could have for that situation, but it would have been nice to have a little more knowledge of what we were really getting into at that stage. I think we might have planned some things differently. That being said, we got to make the film ultimately, and with SAG's blessing and the interim agreement, and it turned out really beautifully.
And the piece was originally a short that had hopes to become a full length, mm-hmm. and now that has come true at the end of this journey. What was that experience like, to just the ups, the downs, the will we, won't we?
It was 10 years of Will We, Won't We. The first short film that we made, we've actually made 3 short installments about these characters, and they're all standalone pieces. They all chronicle little different moments in the journey of this relationship. But that first short we weren't expecting to make the second 2. The second 2 happened because after the first short, we wanted to make the feature. Every summer it kept getting, kicked down the road for whatever reason, either money or timing or what have you. And so in the meantime, we were like, well, we still want to explore these characters. We still want to do things. So we made the other 2 pieces, and each of them are stylistically a little bit different. Sean, our director, is experimenting with different things in each one, but they're all telling different bits of the story of Ben and Suzanne. And so when we did finally get to, when we finally landed in Sri Lanka and we're like, oh my gosh, we're here, we're making it, that was a really, really special moment.
Good. And for the viewing audience at home, what is the best way for them to follow, give support, follow you, or do you have any upcoming projects you want to make sure that we're aware of as well?
Yeah, we have, that's such a great question, because indie film is so hard to do, and the best thing for it is word of mouth. So if people want to follow us on Letterboxd, if you have a chance to see it through any of the film festivals that we have coming up, we have a couple more stops on our festival tour this summer, and we're hoping to do some screenings in New York in the fall. But Letterboxd is great. We have an Instagram, Ben and Suzanne Movie. You can follow myself or Sean Sadaratni or Satya Sridharan. We're all on Instagram and have websites and all of that. benandsuzannemovie.com. And oh gosh, what was the rest of it?
What's coming up for you?
Oh yeah, what's coming up for me? I actually just finished writing and acting in a short film that we filmed just before I went to South by with Ben and Suzanne, because Ben and Suzanne had our world premiere at South by Southwest. So just before we left for South by, I finished a short. So that will be coming out at some point next year, and I'm very proud of it.
Excellent. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with us today, and I wish all of the best, and Stuti.
Stuti, thank you.